Next, we will have a person that we know well here in Iceland, who is Eva Joly. I have a small private story to tell about this, because when the crash happened in Iceland, I was at a wedding, and I sat next to a guy that I had never met before, and I asked him, so what are your hobbies in life, and what are you doing, or something like that. He said, well, I'm an architect, but currently I'm working for Eva Joly, and that was Jón Þórisson, who is here today also. And at the time, I felt like so many others, like, can I help? Eva Joly had recently came to the country, and there was so much happening, and there was a ray of hope coming with her. So I asked him, I'm just a law student, but can I somehow help? Is there anything I can do? Can I go through some documents? So I formed a little group with people who were law students at the time, and we got to meet Eva Joly for 1 hour, and she talked about philosophy and told us to try to look at the broad picture. And it was a wonderful talk. I don't think we did any good or any help, but it was very, very rewarding for us. So I want to thank you for that. Currently, Eva is working, of course, in the European Parliament. She's a member of the Green Party. And now she is the vice president of the Panama Paper Committee, which the European Parliament has, called PANA. They have started their work recently, and now they're meeting every week and trying to get this going, trying to look at all this great information that has been revealed and putting together some sort of a plan of action, I hope. She also works as a full member of LIBE, which is a committee of home affairs within the parliament, and mostly concentrates on the refugees issue. So she's doing a lot of good things there. But also, for 18 months now, she has been working as a lawyer again. So she's the youngest, oldest lawyer in France, as she says herself. I really would like to welcome her. Thank you, Eva.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice for me to be back here in Reykjavik at this important moment of your history. I want to start with a little story about refugees. Do you know that Italy used to run a ship for rescue that was called Mare Nostra, that has rescued more than 150,000 refugees close to the coast of Libya? It cost $15 million a year, and Italy asked Europe for help to share the cost of this boat. Europe said no, we can't afford it. And this boat was then withdrawn, and they used small coast guards that was not appropriate after that. And as you know, 3,000 refugees drowned, and we could have saved at last half of them. This was a question of $15 million. Do you know how much Bankia, the Spanish bank, that's a gathering of 7 saving banks, how much money they got from Europe? $24 billion. After they got the $24 billion, they ruined 300,000 people by selling products they call preferencia. People thought that they would have interest on it their whole life, and they discovered that this interest was linked to the benefit of the bank, and there was no benefit. This bank decided on purpose to ruin 300,000 people because they needed to reinforce their capital, and they needed capital, and this was a way of doing it. Did the banking authority make an inquiry into what happened with Bankia? No. Did the prosecutors start an investigation to see whether this was normal? No. Who started the investigation? Citizens. It was Simona Levi who started it. She's a tango dancer. And she said, this is not possible. They are crooks. It's not a natural catastrophe. And she set up a secured platform asking all by the social networks to send documentation of what they could have about Rodrigo Rato, who was intended to become Spain's next prime minister and is the former head of the monetary fund. And within few months, she got the proofs that more than 60 persons in the Spanish society had black cards, had credit cards that did debit directly a special account in the bank. And they used it nearly without limits. They are not now, and Simona went to a special prosecutor, not corrupt one, and the inquiry started. You see what corruption is doing. It is destroying the institutions. You cannot trust the institutions to do their work. And there are other terrific examples. The last one is about the Royal Bank of Scotland. Royal Bank of Scotland has cost English taxpayer £45 billion. And we now know that they have ruined 16,000 small and medium companies for the same purpose, to increase their assets, because they need to comply with the Basel rules of the equilibrium. They decided it. There are mails telling this that are now public. Nobody did look into Royal Bank of Scotland after they got the 45 billions. Nobody has been held accountable. And people who had their bonuses have kept them. And ordinary citizens are ruined. Their life is destroyed. And these banksters get away with it. It is impunity. And this is why we have to understand that corruption is really destroying democracy. When you have crony, when you have conflict of interest, when you are sitting on both sides of the table, when people are too close to each other, democracy is lost. And I do think that when a country, a small country like Iceland, with its highly educated citizens and its aspiration for a lively democracy, when you learn that more than 600 members of your community has set up offshore companies, and that among them it is the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Interior. This is not to live with. And I will tell Johannes that there is not any ethical problem about asking the Prime Minister, where does this society come from? It's a totally legitimate question. And the pity is that you haven't got the answer. Not really. And why should we believe these people when they say, this is legal, just pass your way. It's not forbidden to set up a company. But then think twice. Why should you set up an offshore company if you have nothing to hide? Why should you pay for advices and attorneys to do it? We have empiri on this. If you go to the US Senator Levin, he did conduct the inquiry committee in the American Senate into private banking, and he asked these bankers, among your clients, those who set up offshore companies, how many do you think have a legitimate purpose? The answer, and this you can find easily, I will give it to Jon, so you can send it around. They answered, well, about 99.5% is illegitimate. This is what we know. And saying that it is legitimate to not pay taxes, to, like the multinationals say, they have been saying for decades, it's legal. But now people say we don't believe it. We believe that you are misusing these constructions in tax havens in order not to pay taxes. As to these offshore companies belonging to individuals, it is not only about taxes. It is not only not to pay taxes. It is also to hide things that you cannot talk about, corruption money. It is to hide the kickback you did receive on privatizations, for instance. So it's terribly important not to believe people that don't want to show, because they had the possibility to answer the journalist, to give the documents from the bank account of this offshore company saying, here you see the amount, this is the inheritance of my wife, and this is what I did with it. But this document was never shown. So I think, and so what my message is that corruption is really destroying society. It has terrible effect, excuse me. And it is even destroying peace building. I have been working in Afghanistan, in Kabul, for 3 years, trying to help civil society to get over the war. We have all paid to Afghanistan more than $100 billion for that. And I'm sorry to say that most of this money has gone into offshore companies and into flats in Dubai, houses in Dubai, and never served the Afghan people. So when you see that the inquiries are not being conducted, and this is true also in France, we have a lot of examples. When you see in France that the former president, Sarkozy, is still running for a new term, while he has many indictments or many inquiries ongoing, and one that is very serious is he has spent twice the amount that was allowed for his electoral campaign, 20 million more than was foreseen, and there is very heavy suspicions that he received $50 million from Gaddafi. This is an ongoing inquiry, but this doesn't stop him from running, and he hates investigators, investigative journalists, and judges. So what is important for the Icelandic people today, I think, is to change, is to understand that your society has been eaten up from inside by people who has taken a lot of advantages for themselves and their friends, and that it's time to change. And you have the possibility to give them a political sanction. You can stop voting for them. That is your right. And you can say, as Podemos did in Spain, that you, the people, or the 5 stars in Italy, you want to take the power back. You want to invest in the higher position in your society, citizens that you trust and that are not linked to any network, that don't run aluminium plants or other, that don't have any links to groups. So I will not hide it anymore. I'm hoping that Birgitta Jonsdottir will be your next Prime Minister. Thank you.
Now we have officially run out of time, but because we have the rare opportunity of having Eva with us, and what do I have to do to get this Madame part to my name? I want to be Madame Kadrin. But we have only one Madame at this room at the moment, and I would like to ask her to maybe finish off this wonderful meeting, and thank you all. So sorry about not being able to give the word back to you, but I just want to end on time. It's a principle of mine. So please, Eva, if you could just say a few final words, and then I want to thank you all.
First, I want to say 2 words to our judge that resigned from her position. She paid a high price to let us know what the state of the justice is. This is very important information, and I'm sure that it will be taken care of. And if you should need help to understand, I think we could do something about it together. And I feel that there is a lot of energy and hope in this room. And I think that time has come really to bring forward changement, to give up the old boys, because we know that it's the same people that did run the central bank, the government, the newspapers. They are the same, and they have lived their life. Times they are changing. This is a new time, and now this is a. We take the signal. This is now a Nobel Prize winner, and so I think that times they are changing, and the pirates, they will carry out this changement. I hope in close cooperation with the Greens, so that also the environmental subject can be part of the program very strongly, because we have to work for future generations, for better democracy, but we cannot give up all the environmental subjects. So I'm very confident today that we will find solutions to this corruption by having new ideas and a political will, which is the most important, and a lot of help also from academia to find the good solutions, and courageous people in Iceland. That is the most valuable asset. So thank you, and I was really happy to be able to come here to support the pirates. They are with us in the Green Group in the European Parliament, and I must say that this little group, we are only 54 people out of more than 700, but without us, the Parliament would be much more boring. So I think this is c'est de bon augure, and I wish you, Birgitta, really, I cross my fingers for these elections, and I had a lot of hope for the Icelandic society who do merit better government. When I came up here first, I was so impressed that this country with 330,000 inhabitants, they have wonderful artists, they have a wonderful literature, they have a philharmonic orchestra, and they have services of nephrology. So really, this is unbelievable.
So that will be our conclusion for today. Thank you all very much for a lovely meeting. Good luck.